Now, a joint subcommittee of the Western Cape Education Department and the South African Police Service has briefed the Provincial Education Committee on efforts to curb school violence. It follows a stabbing at the Tafelsig High School, where an 18-year-old learner allegedly attacked 4 classmates. In response, the Mitchell's Plain Community Policing Forum, as well as neighborhood watchers, are developing a safety strategy. Let's speak to the Community Policing Forum chairperson in Mitchell's Plain, Norman Jantjies, right now. Norman, it's a good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on the AM Report. Let's just talk about the significance and importance of this school safety program, which has been long needed and long awaited for.
Yeah, good morning to you and good morning to the viewers. It's important that to note that the Safe Schools program, I'm not an expert into that, but it has been implemented a long time ago. However, it essentially used to look at the infrastructure at the school, how to develop infrastructure like extra fencing, cameras, that type of thing. And but the main focus of this is to ensure that there's a safe environment. So each school has got a school safety plan and a school safety committee consisting of the educators, parents, and also community organizations, and sometimes even the police. So each school is supposed to develop this plan. However, there is a separate department within provincial government, within education, that's called the Safe Schools program. And that program is resourced, and so they resource the schools and they support the schools. But it's we don't have many staff in that department. For instance, Mitchell's Plain, we've got 75 schools in Mitchell's Plain. And then there's only one social worker or 2 social workers that serves those 75 schools, plus some of the schools in a surrounding area. So maybe one social worker can easily serve 150 schools within the greater Mitchell's Plain area. So that is the shortcomings of the program. But this particular school, each school, certain schools are situated in hotspots where there's crime and violence in and around the schools all the time. Yeah. So the incident that was referring to at Yellowwood Primary School in Tafelsig, I think that was a very good example of how it should be implemented, making sure when there's shootings, everybody lies down, they play soft music in the background.
Norman.
So for me, that was a perfect example of how it needs to be done.
Yeah. Parents have also been told, according to the school safety program, that they should not collect their children from schools when violence is happening in and around the area. Can we honestly say, however, that schools are safer than the streets in those situations?
In many cases, it's not necessarily safer, because at the end of the day, teachers are educated to educate, that they go to varsity and college to educate. But it's very seldom that you're actually ready and capable to work in gang-infested communities. So it's not particularly a safe zone. Yeah. And like you said, if there's shootings, it's just instinctive for parents to run to the school, and then also for kids to move towards the shooting, the incident. So they've got a very good system at this particular school. Each teacher's got a WhatsApp group with the parents, and then the school has got an overall WhatsApp group. So they would immediately, within minutes, communicate with the entire school community and ask to tell them there's an incident. They're not supposed to collect their kids at school. And it seemed to be working fairly well at this particular school now.
Okay. I mean, you've had, there've been so many recent situations that we can look at, even the stabbing at one of the schools then as well. How do we properly train staff to be a part of this? Because as you said, teachers have been taught to teach. Now the Safe School program comes to light. Does that mean the hiring of different staff, the hiring of security personnel? Does that mean teachers then need to be trained in this too? That just means that it's bound to take some time, and understanding and the funds may be difficult to come by.
Yes, you also have, you're correct. And there's also, you've got big classes, many kids in your class, and they've got social problems. And a teacher also needs to be a parent, because kids also come from difficult homes in these areas. So you as a teacher need to be a mom, a dad, and because there's many social issues. So it's very difficult, and many of these schools are also under-resourced. So what happens is in certain communities, they will involve the local neighborhood watch, and they will then assist in being visible at the school, especially in the morning and the afternoon when school closes. So that helps. And then in certain schools in Mitchells Plain, I think about 3 or 4 schools, they've got what they call a school resource officer. And that person is a trained Metro Police officer, a law enforcement officer, and that person is then employed by the local government, the city of Cape Town in this instance. So that they do, they try to contribute towards the safety, but like I said, each school is supposed to have a school safety plan, yeah, and that should assist. But it's difficult, like you say. Kids see substance abuse, gangsters into the schools to recruit kids. They also try and sell drugs to them and cigarettes, to start with cigarettes. So it's a very difficult situation to be a teacher within these high-risk communities. Yeah.
Yeah, one imagines it certainly does feel like it is getting harder and harder to do at this stage. Let's perhaps close off with just an understanding of where your role is then as the CPF. I know you've just spoken about some schools getting involved with neighborhood watches, for example, and some of yourselves. Does that mean that your focus is shifting just a little bit, or does that mean you're going to have to get on a recruitment drive yourselves to ensure that you have enough bodies to cover all these areas to try and help where possible? And how much is law enforcement getting involved here? Because while you have your policing forum, it's also about the police themselves, making sure that they are on standby very quickly and urgently.
Like I said earlier on, Mitchells Plain, we've got many gangs, and there's a lot of gang violence. And I think we have between 15 and 20 murders per month. So, and then we've got 75 schools. So how do we, as a community police forum, and which is a voluntary organization, how do you really get to all the schools? How do you really make an impact, you know? So sometimes you need to prioritize certain schools in hotspots where gang violence is prevalent at the moment, and then try and make a little difference there. You must also understand that we're a voluntary organization, so many CPF members, they're not necessarily trained, they're community members, they are elected, and they also don't necessarily have time. Maybe you're a school teacher, maybe you're a business person, but you also happen to be volunteering as a CPF member or as a neighborhood watch member.
So Norman, sorry to interrupt. Does that, I mean, are you getting a sense that there are enough police within the Mitchells Plain area to help in this regard? Or does that mean that you're asking and calling for a lot more police and law enforcement to be in and around the area to help yourselves as CPFs and neighborhood watchers?
No, we need because we've got about 500 police officers in Mitchells Plain, and a third of them are actually office bound. They're doing admin and other support roles. And then a portion of that are detectives. It's just unfortunate that, number one, we don't have sufficient detectives. We don't have sufficient police visibility. We're supposed to have sector policing. And you find that one sector commander will have an area of a community of thousands of households. So then it's difficult to really fulfill your role. And then, of course, certain sector commanders, or in fact, most of the sector commanders, they must share a van with 2 other sectors. So it's impossible to have proper policing in an area such as Mitchell's Plain with this under-resourcing. And then there's also the thing about capacity. One detective will easily have 150 to 200 cases. So, and some of them are inexperienced, because remember our firearms disappeared last year. And many of our senior detectives were transferred, and some of the detectives lost their jobs. So now you have a situation where many of the detectives are inexperienced. And now you're dealing with educated, some gangsters. They also have very good attorneys. So you find even at the courts, many of the cases are thrown out, withdrawn, because of insufficient evidence or poor detective work. Yeah. So it's a difficult situation. We are under-resourced in terms of personnel and in terms of vehicles and other stuff. Yeah.